Hey there boys and girls, like Skillsetes here, and welcome back to another new video series that I just started called Road to Pro Gamer. Again, I'm not claiming to be the best player in the world, but I think over the last 10 years or so where I've been playing first-person shooters, I think I've gathered quite some knowledge about it, and I thought it would be time to share it with you guys. So, for today's video, we will be going over these 5 points as you can see on the screen right now. First of all, we would have what is skill, so quick explanation or definition of skill and what kind of skill sets there are. After that, point 2 would be FPS basics, so like what's important, how does it work, the gun mechanics, hitbox, netcode and movement. After that, the third one we would have aiming, and that would be precise twitch, positioning as well, and also teamwork and tactics, so those are different kinds of skills. For our fourth point would have skill floor ceiling and stats and shooters, and last but not least, how to improve your skills. But yeah, so much about that, and I think we should get into it and start out with what is skill. But yeah, what is skill in a first-person shooter? So, if we're hitting up Google, because we know Google knows everything, we can see that the definition for skill would be the ability to do something well, expertise, difficult work, taking great skill. There are also lots of other synonyms, and of course, being skilled means being good at something, or just being good. For example, being a good player, or being just generally good at the game that you're playing, in this case the first-person shooters. One skill set would be, for example, the skill set to be a very efficient player when it comes to your kill-death ratio, for example. So in a team deathmatch scenario where it's only about the kills, having a good kill-death ratio makes you a skilled or a efficient player, you could say. Otherwise, for another game mode, for example like Conquest or Domination or something like that, where you have to capture flags, just getting kills won't just do it. You need the flags to play the game well, and there could be players with, I don't know, 0 kills and 20 deaths, and they're still first on the scoreboard and being like points-wise a good player just by playing their role and helping their team. So there are different skill sets, and you want to have a healthy balance between all of them. But yeah, I would say let's hop over to our FPS basics now to check them out. But yeah, now if we're taking a closer look at the screen right now, you can see the FPS basics. So there are basically 4 pillars that really define a first-person shooter. First of all, we would have the gun mechanics. Those are really important. Besides that, we would have the hitbox, the netcode, and the movement. And again, those are all also very important as well, because they really define the shooter, and if they are not working, then the shooter won't be either. So it's really important that they're down and they're working, and the core mechanics should be them and they should be working. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about them in detail. So first of all, we would have the gun mechanic, and before that we should check out our little Wikipedia site right here. So we can see that a first-person shooter, or short FPS, is a video game genre centered on a gun and projectile weapon-based combat through a first-person perspective. So, centered on gun and projectile weapon-based combat. Gun and projectile. So we got a gun and we're obviously shooting projectiles, and there are two ways that we can actually shoot projectiles. One of them would be in real time when we're shooting like real bullets and they have proper bullet speed and bullet drop and all that stuff. We have that in Arma and in Battlefield. And yeah, with them it's a little bit harder to aim because you have to anticipate a little bit more where your targets are running to, and this makes aiming a little bit harder. The other thing would be insta-hit reg. For example, like here in Counter-Strike, you can see that if you're aiming at someone, the bullet will just shoot and will be instantly there. And like that, it will be a little bit easier to aim because you just got the hit scanning on there. So if you're shooting someone, it will scan the area, and for example, if you're hitting a wall, there will be a bullet hole, or if you're hitting an object, the object might break or something like that. But if you're hitting a player, you will be hitting his hitbox. And as you can see on the screen right now, every player has a hitbox. So this is basically how you're actually hitting the targets, and this is also where the damage comes from. So if you're aiming at the foot and you're hitting the foot, then we'll check, did it hit the foot? Yes, hit the foot. And if it hit the foot, then we'll basically count the damage that the player has taken, and it will just take it from the full health that the player has. And this is basically how it works. Problem is now, again, this is the next point, the netcode. If we're having problem with that, or if we're having problem with the core game mechanics, for example like hitbox itself, then you will see that the hitbox might be lagging behind. And if you're having a bad connection or just lag in general, this will show you that you're still hitting the target, but the hitbox is lagging behind, and like that you're not getting the kill. You see the blood, you see that you're hitting him, but there's no damage, and of course this is not the way the shooter should play, and you can't actually do that. So again, netcode is one of the main big features that a shooter really needs. Besides that, it would have the movement, because you should never at no point be restricted by your movement, neither by the map, neither by just your general movement abilities. You should always be able to freely move around. You should not get stuck somewhere. For example, if the map design is bad and you're just getting stuck between two containers or something like that, that should not happen, because those are the 4 main things that you need to play the game freely and also on a competitive level, if you will so. But yeah, let's move over to our next point, which would be the different kind of skills. But yeah, what kind of skill sets for a first-person shooter do we have? So as you can see on the screen right now, there would first of all be aiming. And aiming is basically, again, divided into 2 things, precise aiming and twitch aiming. After that, we would have the positioning, and then teamwork and tactics. So how this is going to work now, I will show you a game that is representing one of those points pretty well. And this does not mean that this game is only featuring around that. I mean, a good game always features around all of those points. I'm just showing you one of them in one game, so it's easier to understand and easier to show. So let's start out with our first example, which would be aiming precisely. For that I use Counter-Strike, as you can see on the screen right now. Because in Counter-Strike, the way the hitboxes, or better the multipliers for the hitboxes handle, you're always getting a lot more damage for a headshot. So the reward for a headshot is a lot higher than, for example, for a shot in the knee, arrow to the knee, or a body shot, or just in the hand or something. So it's more about aiming, and you always want to hit the head, especially since most weapons do kill in one headshot. Even the pistols are pretty strong against headshots. So it's really a lot about aiming. You want to be precise, and you want to always hit your target in the head. And I think Counter-Strike is doing that pretty well, because it always rewards the headshots a lot. So this is one of the skill sets, aiming precisely. Again, there's another thing of aiming, which would be twitch aiming. For that, my example right here would be Titanfall. So Titanfall is a really fast-paced game, with all the parkour and jumping around, double jumping, and also the titans and all the other stuff that there is. The game is really fast. And because the game is so fast, twitch aiming is rather important. So once again, this doesn't mean that the precise aiming will be slow, but it does not also mean that the twitch aiming will be unprecise. You ultimately want to have both of them, of course, but again, those are just examples to show it a little bit better. So, for the twitch aiming in Titanfall, since the game is so fast-paced, and since the hitboxes, or the multipliers for the hitboxes are made so that you're not being rewarded for a headshot that much, but just for the general area of the body, basically also almost as much as for a headshot, it's a lot better to just go for the headshot altogether, because it's still hard enough to hit a target at all. So you're being rewarded more by just hitting the target faster, just the general direction, maybe hipfire it down with an SMG or something like that. This is twitch aiming, and you want to be quick and precise, also precise, but rather quick with it. So right here, a higher sensitivity normally comes in more handy. For the first one, a low sensitivity normally comes in more handy, sorry. But yeah, next up we would have positioning, and for that I have another example, which would be Insurgency. So Insurgency is a pretty hardcore game in my opinion, because you normally die within 1 to 2 shots from each and every weapon, no matter where it's hitting you. So this is like a even more crazier example, but since the movement, or better said the ability to move in Insurgency is a little bit more restricted than, for example, in Titanfall, because it's rather realistically, you really are bound to making your positioning very well and very good. So you always want to have the advantage, you always want to have the jump on the enemy, because even if your aim is not the greatest, as long as you're shooting first, because you only have to get 1 or 2 bullets down, and maybe you want to spray down with an assault rifle or something like that, it's a lot easier to have a good positioning right there. And this is why Insurgency is a lot about positioning and basically having the jump on the enemy. Last but not least, we would have Battlefield right here, and this basically shows us teamwork and tactics. So we all know that Battlefield is a lot about teamwork. We got the different classes that should all play together, that they're handling in like very well. You can heal people, you can give them ammo, you can spot for them, you can repair their vehicles and stuff. So Battlefield really excels when playing together as a team, because you can also spawn on squad mates, which makes it a lot better to capture flags or something like that, and just to have like the overall performance of your gameplay rise up and just make it a better experience, and just to make it more to go for like the PDFO and to win the game. Again, the another point would be tactics, and it's basically the same. So if you have a really good teamwork, you can also apply really good tactics, not just outsmart them like running around the box, but you can say, you go there, I'm there, there's one guy covering us from back there. And so the tactics in Battlefield can also excel pretty well. And those are basically the 4 points or 5 points, just how you want it, that are basically defining different skill sets. But again, you as a good player, you want to have all of them down. Okay, next up we would have skill floor, skill ceiling, and stats in shooters. And those are, again, very important things about shooters, and this rather affects the balance more than the actual gameplay itself. So let's start out with skill floor and skill ceiling. So basically you're asking yourself, what is a skill floor? A low skill floor means that it's really easy to pick up. For example, Call of Duty has a really low skill floor. It's really easy to pick up for new players, so it's kind of noob friendly, and it's easy for them to have fun and to enjoy the game, even if they're not the best at playing shooters in general. And so they're still, having fun, and it's easy to pick up for them. For the other side, we'd, for example, have the skill ceiling. Skill ceiling is basically how good you can get in a game. Basically, how well you're able to play the game, how good you can get in the game. It defines like the best case scenario, the best player you can be. And for example, Counter-Strike right here has a really high skill ceiling. So this means that the skill ceiling right here, you can really excel, you can improve, you can get better and better. And yes, as a player who likes to play competitively, you're always on the edge, you always can get better. Again, if we're talking a little bit more about Call of Duty, for example, they have a kind of rather low skill ceiling because they do not want the new players to get pub-stomped or stomped by the better players. And I mean, it's obvious that the better players normally win against newer or average gamers or just the casual ones. But their way of approaching it, because they're focusing more on casual players now than before, is to lower the skill ceiling so that they have a better compressed crowd, which is one way to fix that new players won't get stumped by the better ones. And they're lowering the skill ceiling, for example, by doing something like the revenge kills, or revenge spawns. If you did not know, in Call of Duty, if you're dying by someone, you're actually spawning close to him once again, so that your chance of killing him will be higher. And this is one of the things that you can lower the skill ceiling. For example, there's also stuff that lowers the skill ceiling not by default or unwanted, for example, like a bad netcode, like we have in Battlefield sometimes. And this really can lower the skill ceiling as well. Also, if one of the 4 pillars of the gun mechanics, for example, or the movement or the netcode and hitbox are broken, this lowers the skill ceiling also quite a lot, but it's not intended to be like that. So if you're, for example, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, once again right here, wanted to make it so that the skill floor and the skill ceiling are actually pretty close together. So, well, not close together, but that players can easily pick it up and enjoy the game, but good players that are not casual should be able to really excel and get better and improve. And the way they did that, instead of just lowering the skill ceiling, they made it so that they have a rank or matchmaking system. So like that, the good players will play against better players, and the more casual players will actually play against like the lower end worst players. And like that, you always have kind of an opponent that's on your skill level. Again, it's kind of hard to decide what kind of ranking system to use, but this is definitely one way how you could balance it out, and this is also a way to make it a little bit easier and more achievable for those that are, that want to play competitively on a high level, and that those that are just randomly and casually playing like over the weekends or something. So this is one, for example, the skill floor. Again, if the skill floor is pretty low, it's easy to pick up. If the skill floor is pretty high though, for example, I don't know, Battlefield previously had a pretty high learning curve, so this means it has a higher skill floor, and it's a little bit harder to do. If the skill ceiling is low, you can really get much better at the game. If the skill ceiling is high, you can really get better and improve, for example, like in Counter-Strike right here. But yeah, besides that, we would also have stats in shooters. And stats are, by most average players that think they are good, used in order to, justify their claims that they're a good player. But stats can easily be manipulated. For example, in Call of Duty, once again, you can just camp in a corner, look at an entrance, every time someone is walking by, you kill him. Then you get your kill streak, and then you actually get a pretty good KD. However, you might just be getting like kills, like 2 kills, and then you die. You get no kill streak, but you're at least positive. But maybe you're not like contributing enough to your team in team deathmatch, for example, and then the time runs out before you could have done more damage to the enemy team, and you're actually losing even though you were positive. And this once again is a thing that that stats don't really matter. I mean, they're more like a prestige or nice to have, but a good player will think otherwise. He thinks like, oh yeah, that was a good shot, or this was some good team play, or that you outsmarted the other guy. For example, he was running there, okay, I thought he was running there, so I was running the other way around to get him from the side and to flank him. So as a good player, you don't want to rely on stats. Again, if you're a new player, it's pretty easy to rely on them, and it will also take some time until you get it down and know if you're a good player or not, and or if you're really skilled. It really takes some time, but to be honest, don't care about stats that much. Just play it for fun. For example, the sacrificial pawn, which is the most important thing. For example, he has to run out, be the bait to lure the enemies out so you can win. Will have worse stats just because he was like sacrificing himself for the team. But he was the thing, or basically the person that made the team win. So this is the thing that is not being listed in the stats, but is really important. But yeah, now for our last point, which would be how to improve your game, or better said, how to improve your skills. And I'm going to say it, and everyone will hate me for it, but it's definitely the truth. You have to practice. I know everyone hates it, but it's the truth. You have to practice in order to get better. Everyone wants to have a shortcut to get better immediately, to be the best. But that's just not how it goes. Like, as with everything in real life and just in non-real life, like right here, you have to practice in order to get better. But you do not have to just play the game a lot. I mean, this can help to get better, of course, because you need to play the game in order to get better. But just playing a lot does not help. I know lots of players that have played a lot of games, that are playing lots of games, and spending pretty much all their time with playing games. But still they're not getting better. Like, they're not improving, and they're still on an average level. And this is because they're not actually learning the game, they're just playing it. So I do not mean that you have to hide in your basement for 7 years and study all the game physics and stuff. You just want to learn the game. There are always certain patterns to everything, and our brain is actually pretty good at like recognizing them and kind of analyzing them. So first of all, for example, you want to analyze the map. You want to know the flow of the map. You want to know where people are spawning. You know where there could be traps. You want to know good lines of sight. You want to know how to approach different situations. And like that, it's pretty easy. It's a pretty easy step to learn the game. You want to learn it. You want to kind of, I don't know, learn it by heart, you could say. You really want to get the patterns of the game down. For example, if you're in a gunfight and there's a container box between the both of you. So now the one enemy is peeking out. You see him, you get to cover. So should you peek the same corner again, where he's probably aiming at you, or do you want to rush around in order to flank him from the side and get him by surprise, you could say. So this would be the first thing. But now you could also think, okay, is he expecting me to do it if he's a better player and he's also rushing around that corner? So should I rush around the same corner again in order to flank him from that side? And that stuff, like, you want to outsmart and outplay your enemy. And this is also how you get better. You want to be creative. For example, if someone's hiding behind cover and he got a jump on you, you have no chance of hitting him. But you see there's like a red barrel next to him with flames. So why don't shoot the barrel? It explodes and kills the enemy. And again, if you're under pressure and know sometimes the heartbeat can go up and you got your heart racing because it's kind of exciting, but stay calm, and keep cool, because like that you can stay creative and you can excel at the game and you can improve your skill and get better. So okay, this was the first part of Road to Pro Gamer. Once again, I'm not claiming to be the best player in the world, but I think this might be helpful for some people. And if you want to know more about it, or if you would be interested in more episodes, please just leave a comment down below and tell me what else you would like to see. Of course, I've already pre-planned some stuff, for example, like gaming gear, does it improve, how many FPS can we see, and all that stuff. So it's all really gaming related, and if you want to get better at gaming, I guess it can really help. And if you enjoy the series, or if you would like to see more, once again, maybe you want to leave me a rating, I don't know, a like or favorite or subscribe or something, so I know if you did like the video or if you want to see more from it. And maybe if you have some friends and you think that they would need it, maybe share it with them. I have no idea. But yeah, I don't want to beg, so I think that's pretty much all for now, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and Lucky Skill Faker out.